The story of hip-hop's greatest rivalry is filled with violence, ambition, and power. But behind the scandal and the drama, one phone call from a man locked away in prison may hold the key to the future of his longtime enemy, Sean Diddy Combs. Suge Knight, the infamous rap mogul, isn't just watching from the sidelines. He's offering advice, a lifeline, or a trap in the world of rap. The stakes are higher than anyone can imagine. In the 1990s, the hip-hop industry was defined by one fierce and highly publicized feud, the rivalry between Suge Knight and Sean Diddy Combs. Both men were powerhouses in their own right, and their conflict went beyond business, it was personal. At the center of this was Death Row Records, founded by Suge Knight, which revolutionized the West Coast rap scene. With the rise of Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur, Death Row became the most powerful label in the industry. On the opposite coast was Diddy's Bad Boy Records, which became the epitome of East Coast rap. Under Diddy's leadership, artists like the notorious Big Faith Evans and Mace defined an era of rap. But the competition between the two men wasn't just about music, it was about control, power, and influence over the industry. As the two labels battled for supremacy, their animosity grew and tensions reached a boiling point. It was clear that this wasn't just about the business. This was about two men who represented different ideologies, cultures, and ways of thinking in an industry where competition was fierce and the stakes were incredibly high. Their rivalry took a darker turn in 1996 with the tragic murder of Tupac Shakur. Knight, who was driving the car in which Shakur was shot, became a prime suspect in the ongoing debate about East Coast-West Coast tensions. Just months later, the notorious Big was gunned down in a still unsolved case, fueling speculation that these two deaths were connected to the heated rivalry between Knight and Diddy. Though the details of their involvement in the murders have never been conclusively proven, the timing and circumstances fueled an ongoing narrative that the two moguls' rivalry was at the heart of the rap world's darkest moments. Fast forward to the present day, and the two men, once bitter enemies, find their paths crossing again, but this time in a courtroom. Sean Diddy Combs is facing serious legal trouble, and the charges against him are nothing short of devastating. He stands accused of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation for prostitution, with the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. But in the midst of these high-stakes legal proceedings, an unexpected figure has entered the fray: Suge Knight. Knight, currently serving a 28-year sentence for a 2015 hit-and-run incident, has resurfaced in the media after years of relative silence. From his prison cell, Knight has a message for Diddy, one that could change everything. Speaking in a phone interview with CNN's Laura Coates, Knight urged Diddy to take a bold step to testify in his own defense. "I feel if he do tell his truth, he really would walk," Knight said, offering his perspective from behind bars. It's a shocking twist. Knight, a man whose reputation has long been one of ruthless power, is now encouraging his enemy to show vulnerability in court. Knight's reasoning is clear. He believes that Diddy has the chance to humanize himself in front of the jury. According to Knight, if Diddy were to openly acknowledge the mistakes and demons of his past, it could change the way the jury perceives him. Knight points specifically to Diddy's well-documented struggles with substance abuse and personal control. If Puffy goes up there and says, "Hey, I did all the drugs, I wasn't in control of my life at the time or myself," Knight continued, he can humanize his old self and the jury might give him a shot. The message is as surprising as it is direct: own up to the past. Knight is telling Diddy that the key to his salvation lies in honesty and authenticity, a chance to tell the truth, in the hope that the jury will empathize with his struggles. Knight's advice is undoubtedly bold, but the question remains, is it a risk worth taking? Legal experts have long cautioned that a defendant testifying in their own defense is a gamble. It opens the door to cross-examination, which can expose weaknesses in their testimony and potentially unravel any defense they've carefully built. Benjamin Chew, co-lead counsel for Johnny Depp during his defamation trial, told CNN that the conventional wisdom in high-profile cases is to avoid putting the defendant on the stand. Taking the stand puts the defendant in a vulnerable position, and for someone like Diddy with so much at stake, it could backfire. If the jury perceives him as being insincere or evasive, it could solidify their belief in the allegations against him. Yet Knight's argument is compelling. For Diddy to remain silent, he risks being seen as someone who avoids accountability, someone who is scared to face the consequences of his actions. Knight believes that silence will only reinforce a perception of guilt and fear. But Knight's call for Diddy to put up his pants and face the music is also a challenge that forces Diddy to confront his past in a way that could determine the outcome of the trial. To understand the weight of Knight's words, it's important to look at his own tumultuous history. Suge Knight was once one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop, known for his fearsome reputation and his role in shaping the careers of artists like Tupac Shakur, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre. Through his company Death Row Records, Knight built a powerful empire and became one of the most influential men in the music industry. However, Knight's legacy is complicated. Along with his success came controversy, including allegations of violence, intimidation, and even murder. His infamous altercations with artists including Dr. Dre and his involvement in the chaotic world of 1990s hip-hop made him both a hero and a villain to different factions of the industry. But Knight's downfall was just as dramatic as his rise. In 2018, he pled no contest to manslaughter after an incident in 2015 when he ran over two men on the set of the film Straight Outta Compton, killing one of them. As a result, he was sentenced to 28 years in prison. Despite his fall from grace, Knight's influence still looms large in the world of hip-hop. His involvement in the case against Diddy, even from behind bars, is a testament to the complex web of personal and professional connections that continue to shape the narrative of the rap world. As Diddy's trial progresses, Knight's comments are drawing attention to the deep-seated rivalry between the two men. Their past interactions, marked by threats, intimidation, and volatile emotions, are now being revisited in the courtroom. The former associates of Diddy, who have testified in the trial, have painted a troubling picture of their experiences working with him. One of Diddy's former personal assistants, Capricorn Clark, recalled an incident in Central Park when Combs allegedly threatened her life over her previous ties to Knight. Clark recalled how Combs told her, "If anything happened, he would have to kill me." Another former assistant, David James, described a disturbing encounter in a diner with Knight. After learning of the encounter, Combs allegedly ordered his security detail to retrieve him with guns in tow. According to James, Diddy was so concerned about Knight's presence that he arrived at the diner with 3 handguns, though Knight had already left by the time they arrived. These accounts only add fuel to the fire of an already volatile legal battle. With these pieces of testimony, the past that Diddy tried to leave behind is now re-entering the spotlight, and the rivalry with Knight may play a significant role in how the jury perceives him. In the midst of these accusations, Knight's message remains clear. Diddy has the power to change his narrative, but it requires a willingness to confront his past. Knight's advice isn't just about avoiding a guilty verdict. It's about finding redemption in the eyes of the public, and more importantly, in the eyes of the jury. The question remains, will Diddy listen to his former rival and speak his truth? The trial continues, and with it the possibility that one of hip-hop's greatest moguls will either survive or fall. As the trial of Sean Diddy Combs progresses, the weight of Suge Knight's words hangs heavy in the air. The advice that Knight, now imprisoned, gave to his longtime rival has become a focal point in the media and among legal experts. Should Diddy take the stand, risking the possibility of brutal cross-examination, or should he remain silent, relying on his legal team to fight the charges without his personal testimony? The stakes are higher than ever, with Diddy facing charges that could land him in prison for the rest of his life if convicted on all counts. Diddy, known for his business acumen and polished public persona, now faces a pivotal moment in his life and career. In a courtroom where every word counts, the decision to testify could make or break his case. He could follow Knight's advice, revealing the truths about his past, or he could choose to remain in the shadows, hoping that the jury will interpret his silence as an indication of innocence. As the trial enters its final phases, the question becomes, will Diddy dare to confront his demons and speak the truth? Behind the scenes, Diddy's legal team has been working tirelessly to protect his interests. The charges against him, racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation for prostitution, are severe, and the potential consequences are unimaginable. While the team has presented a robust defense, arguing that the accusations are unfounded and based on unreliable testimony, the absence of Diddy on the witness stand has created a gap in the narrative. Diddy's lawyers, like many defense attorneys in high-profile cases, are faced with a difficult decision. While it is conventional wisdom that defendants in criminal trials should avoid taking the stand because doing so opens them up to the possibility of being cross-examined, there is a growing belief among some of the defense team that Diddy's testimony could serve as a turning point. The challenge is evident. By testifying, Diddy would have the chance to speak directly to the jury, potentially expressing remorse, vulnerability, and even offering a glimpse of his past struggles. However, this could also backfire if the prosecution is able to pick apart his testimony and paint him as dishonest, manipulative, or evasive. Given the magnitude of the charges, the decision to testify is a high-stakes gamble. It's a calculated risk with the potential to either shift the tides of the trial or seal Diddy's fate. As Diddy contemplates whether or not to testify, Suge Knight's influence continues to loom large. Knight, once the embodiment of power in the rap world, is now a man serving time for his involvement in a fatal hit-and-run. His role in the music industry, especially during the 1990s, left an indelible mark, with Death Row Records becoming a force to be reckoned with. However, Knight's criminal activities, threats, and involvement in violent incidents have overshadowed his musical legacy. Knight's advice to Diddy, despite its apparent sincerity, reflects a complex understanding of the power dynamics at play. Knight, a man who spent much of his life navigating the dangerous undercurrents of the music business, knows that personal accountability can be a powerful tool for redemption. In the world of rap, where authenticity and street credibility matter above all else, acknowledging one's flaws and mistakes can make all the difference. While Knight's message was surprising, especially considering their fraught relationship, it also highlights the deep-seated connections between these two men. Though they were once bitter rivals, both Knight and Diddy understand the intricacies of public perception. Knight believes that Diddy's future in the eyes of the jury and the public depends largely on his ability to confront his past with honesty. For Diddy, this trial is not just about his freedom, it's about his image. As a mogul who has built an empire through Bad Boy Records, his public persona is deeply intertwined with his success. He is a business tycoon, a media mogul, and an influential figure in the entertainment industry. But beneath that polished exterior lies a man with a controversial past, one that includes accusations of violence, manipulation, and now serious criminal charges. Throughout his career, Diddy has carefully crafted an image of a successful, charismatic, and powerful figure. But in this trial, all of that could come crashing down. His defense team has worked hard to protect his reputation, arguing that he is the target of a conspiracy, but the public's perception of him will be shaped by what happens next. If Diddy chooses to testify, it could be seen as a humble act of contrition, an attempt to show the world that he is no longer the man he once was. It could serve as a powerful counter-narrative to the accusations against him. Alternatively, if he remains silent, it could reinforce the public's belief that he is hiding something. This trial is a battle for more than just Diddy's freedom. It is a fight for his place in the history of hip-hop and his legacy in the eyes of the public. As the trial reaches its climax, all eyes are on the courtroom. The prosecution, led by a team of seasoned attorneys, is determined to secure a conviction. They argue that Diddy's criminal activities are not only undeniable, but part of a larger pattern of behavior that stretches back years. Their strategy is clear. They will continue to pressure the defendant with testimony from witnesses who have painted him as a manipulative figure involved in a network of illegal activities. If Diddy chooses to testify, he will face a grueling cross-examination. The prosecution will seize every opportunity to undermine his credibility, question his motives, and challenge his version of events. They will bring up his past relationships, his involvement in the East Coast-West Coast feud, and the accusations that have followed him throughout his career. The question is, will Diddy be able to withstand the pressure? The courtroom drama will unfold as the defense and prosecution engage in a battle of wits, with the future of one of hip-hop's most influential figures hanging in the balance. In a dramatic turn of events, Diddy Combs takes the stand. The courtroom falls silent as the man who has spent his life as a public figure now faces the ultimate test. For the first time in the trial, Diddy speaks directly to the jury. His voice is steady, but the weight of the moment is palpable. He begins by acknowledging the truth of his past, recounting the mistakes and missteps that have defined his career. He speaks about the pressures of fame, the struggles with substance abuse, and the mistakes that led him down a dark path. It's a moment of raw honesty, one that few expected from a man so accustomed to being in control. Diddy speaks about his relationship with the rap game, his vision for Bad Boy Records, and his role in the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. He admits that his ambition often led him to make decisions that were reckless, but he insists that he has learned from those mistakes. As he continues, the jury listens attentively. Some nod in acknowledgement while others remain stoic. The defense has made its case, but now the jury must decide, is Diddy the man he claims to be? Or is he a figure hiding behind a carefully crafted facade? As the trial draws to a close, the jury deliberates. The fate of Sean Diddy Combs is in their hands, and the world waits with bated breath for the outcome. Will they believe in his redemption? Or will they see him as just another mogul caught in the web of power, crime, and deceit? Regardless of the verdict, one thing is certain: the impact of this trial will resonate far beyond the courtroom. It is a story of ambition, fallibility, and the complex nature of human redemption. And in the end, the question that remains is whether Diddy Combs, like Suge Knight before him, will find a way to rewrite his narrative, or whether the ghosts of his past will continue to haunt him both in the court of law and in the public eye. The story of Suge Knight and Diddy Combs is far from over. Whether Diddy's testimony will ultimately help him avoid a lengthy prison sentence or serve as a turning point in his career, one thing is clear: the path to redemption is not easy, and it requires more than just truth. It demands vulnerability, accountability, and the courage to face the music. For now, the world waits as two of hip-hop's most iconic figures continue to shape their legacies in ways that few could have predicted. The tale of Suge Knight and Diddy Combs is far from finished, and its conclusion remains one of the greatest sagas in the history of hip-hop.